Hey, welcome team. I'm Kieran from Big Red Cats, and these are our guest packs. They're just a basic mammoth pack. There's one main pocket in the front that we use to keep probes and shovels. The way to assemble the probe is to take the probe out of the bag. You'll notice at the top of the probe here, there's a little toggle, just a little toggle. That toggle, you want to hold onto that while gripping the probe and facing downhill, and then throwing the probe out downhill, just like that. Then you need to grab the first segment of the probe, hold onto that while pulling this toggle and wiggling it at the same time. There's an important self-locking mechanism. It's a bit hard to see, but if you pull it out hard enough and simply let it go, the probe self-locks together. So that's Hey team, I want to show you how to probe systematically. So we're probably at the point where we've built this box. It's a pretty clear box, and we know that the person has to be within that box. The best thing to do once you've built that box is to start by probing first perpendicular. So this is a little bit of a slope, so I've got a little bit of an angle, and I probe right in the center of this box. Then I'll probe down till I hit the ground. The ground is going to feel frozen and hard, just like that. You can hear it. It's going to feel frozen and hard. How would a person feel? Well, they're going to feel kind of soft and squishy. Sort of soft and squishy. It's kind of, if it hits me like this, it's going to be a bit soft. If it hits my helmet, it might be a bit hard plasticky. If it hits my ski boot, it might be a bit hard plasticky. I don't have ski boots on at the moment, but you get the picture. The only other exception to that is if the avalanche has taken people into a creek bed, then the ground can feel kind of soft and squishy. But otherwise, it feels hard and frozen. The last thing I'm doing is noting the depth. Right here it says about 1.20 meters. So then I'm going to move out roughly about 20 centimeters, and I'm going to probe down again. 20 centimeters is about 10 inches for those guys from the States. I'm going to move it about 20 centimeters. And then I'm going to, if I don't get a probe strike, I'm going to move out about another 20 centimeters. And I'm going to keep probing in a pattern that keeps getting bigger and bigger. And that pattern is a spiral type pattern. And as I'm doing this, I'm really staying within the box because I know it has to be there. And I'm increasing my circle. So what that circle looks like, it looks like a spiral type pattern that keeps increasing. So if this is where I had my lowest number, I'm going to start probing here first at that perpendicular angle. No, I'm just getting hard. There's no soft and squishy there. I move out 20 centimeters, probe down, no. Move out, no. Move out, no. Move out. Oh, that's soft and squishy there, and the depth is not as deep. If I get those two things, that change of squishiness and that change of depth, if the depth is not as deep, those are the two indications that I'm looking for. And if I get that, I've got what we call a probe strike. We've got a probe strike. And if we have a probe strike, it's super important then to leave the probe in, because we've just spent often quite a lot of time trying to find them. If you take the probe out, then you've lost that person. You take the probe out, you've lost that person. So leave the probe in. Thanks. Oh, hey team, welcome. I want to show you why probing perpendicular to the slope is so important. So we've done a cross section of a slope, and this transceiver's on. So this is what we're trying to find here. If I turn my transceiver to the search mode, you'll notice that I start to get some numbers and some arrows. Right here I'm getting 1.1 meters, which is pretty good. If I go down the slope, I'm getting 1 meter right there. If I go down further, I'm getting 0.9 right there. If I go down further, I'm at 0.8 right there. If I go down further, just here the numbers started to get bigger again at 0.9. So I make a mark at 0.9 because the numbers are getting bigger there. I'll go back up the slope. Now it's 0.8. I'll keep going back up the slope till it gets to 0.9 again. And it's right here. I'll make a mark right there. So then I'll go in between those two lines where I have my lowest number, It's somewhere about there. That's important because at that point with the lowest number, that's where I'm going to start probing. That's where I'm going to start probing. However, this is the point with the lowest number here. If I probe straight down at that point, it's pretty significant. You can see I completely missed the person that's buried. I completely missed the person that's buried. Therefore, whenever I'm probing, I have to probe perpendicular to the slope. That means that I'm forming a 90-degree angle with the slope and the probe, just here. And you can see when I do form that angle, there I hit the person almost first shot. So the message there, the message is when somebody's buried on a steeper slope, they're just about always a bit further up the hill than you think. It's super important to probe perpendicular, otherwise you're going to waste a lot of time when this person underneath the snow is suffocating. They won't really appreciate it. So thanks guys, I hope you've got the message. Always probe perpendicular to the slope. Hey, welcome team. I just want to show you a little bit more about probing and how to do it. Remember when we were practicing before, we had 0.9 here, 0.8 was the middle here, and 0.9 here. So we've effectively, on this side thing, we've got a box to probe into. We must probe perpendicular to the slope. So you can see I'm at a 90-degree angle with the slope and the probe. And when I probe down, you can see I hit this bag, which is simulated to be a person. That's good. That's kind of soft and squishy. If I miss that instead, if I probe here down, it feels kind of hard and rocky. So a person just about always is going to feel soft and squishy. If I sort of probe here, probing perpendicular, I miss them. And you can see that the depth here is quite a bit deeper as well. So this is going down about 1 meter, but here it was only going down about 85 centimeters, here. So those two things, the change of squishiness and the change of depth, if I get those two indications, which I have here, it's shallower and it's squishier. If I get those two indications, then I've got a probe strike. At that point, it's incredibly important to leave the probe in. If you take it out, all the work that you've just done to find them is lost. So leave the probe in if you get a probe strike. You'll know you have a probe strike if it's soft and squishier, and if it's a little bit less depth than the previous probing. Great, thanks team. The key points for the summary of probing is, number one, have a systematic pattern. Probe perpendicular or at right angles to the slope. And once you get a probe strike, leave the probe in.